Batteries. When we usually think about these for our no prep drag RC cars, we usually think about how big of a battery or how small of a battery, how much volts we can get out of it, how much power, all of that great stuff. But there is a lot more to this battery when it comes to how your no prep drag RC car is going to function when you make a hit down the road. Let's talk about it. I'm Chad. This is the Dorky and 40 RC channel, and we are going to make you faster today. What's going on, guys? It's Chad. Welcome back to the channel today. Over the past couple videos, we've done a lot of bench racing and a lot of talking about batteries and stuff, mostly about why I have chose to try to run a smaller battery this year versus something a little bit larger. And the biggest part about all this is going to be not voltage. We all know that, like with 4-pole motors now, maybe if you don't, if you're new to the hobby, welcome. A 4-pole motor, the right gearing is just not a huge hit on a battery anymore. You can get away with a super small battery. You're not going to notice much difference between, say, this 7600 milliamp R1 battery or this 11,400 milliamp battery. Now, of course, if you are going for the maximum performance, which I know most of you will, one of these days you might need this bigger battery. We're going to explain a lot of that whole stuff in this video right now. So let's get to the bench here and take a look. So if we take a look at the DC1 here, which is still dying to be refit and reconfigured, we see a lot of different things going on here. One of the biggest things we'll talk about right off the bat is the bumper and what would be right here, the forward mounted servo. Now, people figured out last year that they didn't need bumpers. A lot of people were using bumpers, kind of like you see here, to redistribute, add a little bit more weight to the front of the car, being able to move these nice fancy brass weights, add them, remove them as you would see fit. Now, why would you want to do that at a pretty competitive race where you've got, 20, 30 people going down the road for hours? The track conditions throughout the day, temperatures, everything changes. And the good thing about your battery is it becomes one of the best tuning options that you have. And now, what do I mean by tuning options? Well, basically, it means that your battery position is going to directly affect how much percentage bias of weight you have from the front to the back. Simply moving your battery back ½ inch, an inch, can dramatically change this. We're talking 3-4% possibly. And so you start out the day, maybe playing things a little bit safe with your battery in a further back position to put a little bit more weight bias towards the back. As the sticky gets down and you really don't need that kind of stuff, what you would do is just kind of move your battery forward. So as you can see, there's a lot that has to do with this. Now, when it comes to running like smaller batteries, you can actually start doing things like removing things, and that's what people have done. They've found the right way to get the position of their battery and remove all of this unnecessary weight and use a larger battery to compensate for that weight. Because if you're going to be adding something to the car, you just don't want to be sticking weights and stuff all over the car. That's just added, it's not really giving you any benefit. The only benefit that I could really think of off the bat is that you might be able to finally tune it if you don't have access on your vehicle to cool things like this. Like R1 makes weights that are this way. They make these nice small weights that go right here. And they also make different bumper designs. You've got carbon fiber, you got carbon fiber tuned, you've got the plastic injection molded like I have here. You'll figure it out which one works best for you, or maybe you won't run one at all. I didn't run one on the Apollo there at the end when I was running it at the end of the summer before, when I was doing my testing on it and stuff. And, just it all worked out just fine because I was able to basically maneuver that battery. I never really went to any different surfaces. And we always raced at the same time at night. So it's the reason why, for instance, I've got the R1 battery holder in place here. I could always put it there. Nice, simple O-ring design here to keep everything locked down. A little bit of dual lock in there. just for, safety's sake. And it just worked out because we always knew what the surface conditions were going to be like. We didn't really need to make a whole lot of difference. And, if things were really bad or really good, then I could always, again, go back to the brass weights, or I could, make some other kind of changes, but everything pretty much was working the way it was. Now, different batteries, of course, they all come in different shapes and sizes and everything else. So some batteries, you can obviously run them like that. You've got your different wires spacing things out, and you can see that like you could have an immense amount of travel to affect everything here. So, we could get rid of all this stuff, use this. Now, what would happen if I went to a smaller battery? Well, in some cases, I might not have enough weight on there on the front. I might not be able to dramatically affect the weight bias that I was talking about with such a light battery. Now, that's something that I still am going to test because I want to be able to do that. I want to get rid of all this and still be able to run this small pack and see how things go. Now, and worst comes to worse, and we're at a race where I need more forward bias, then I'm pretty much going to have to go ahead and add a bumper or add some of those weights to the front, or I could switch back out to the bigger battery. But I think for all intents and purposes that I think a smaller battery would probably be the best for all of you guys that are starting out before you get into a more advanced type of car. But, some people just, they want to go from 0 to 90 right off the bat. So if you're one of those type of people, then maybe you would be better off with going with a larger battery, getting rid of all the stuff up front, so that way you don't have to spend money on like weights and different kind of bumpers and all that kind of stuff. And then just, depending upon what kind of chassis you have, set yourself up with something, like the dual lock. Dave at Power Mad Racing has showed on his car really good in a couple of his little videos that he does, on how he actually maneuvers the battery. And I think he's put it on scales and showed, the percentage and everything like that. And, it's not something, it's something that you're going to have to change, at an 8 to 12 hour event all the time. You're going to go start at the back, you're going to go forward, and then, there might be times like, say, if the clouds go or if there's rain, and then it starts, the whole race has to start over again and some of the prep gets wiped off, that you're going to have to, again, move it back. So it is a balance. The one thing, though, that, you just don't have to really worry about is the whole voltage thing. Again, this thing is going to keep you at 6.8, 7, 7.1, 7.2, whatever. And so will this one. I mean, I did hundreds and hundreds of hits last year and did not see a bit of difference. I had friends that had, older batteries, smaller batteries, things like that, and they ran just as hard and just as good. So really, when it comes down to it, 4-pole changed that game, and your battery is just going to become that kind of tuning option that you need. Now, in the end, of course, it's great to have all of the options on the table, different size batteries, bumpers, weights, all that kind of stuff to be able to shift things around. But, like I said, for the majority of you guys, you're going to probably never go travel to any events. I plan on doing that a little bit more this year than I did last year, and doing less of the practicing at the same spot, because look at my last video for the reasoning behind that. But if you guys are always racing on, the same road or in the same parking lot with your friends or your local group, then you're going to figure out what everybody else is doing. Take a look at their cars, take a look at their batteries, their setups, see how things are performing, corner scale your car, all that stuff. I'm really not big into the actual corner scales anymore. I kind of think they're a little bit of unicorn dust, but it is nice to get you in the ballpark to see what your actual distribution could be. So that way, you can just kind of have an idea of how much you need to move your battery in order to make the change. And then what you can do is you can make little nicks or marks on your chassis that will show you where you actually need to place said battery in order to get the desired effect. So batteries. A lot more to them than voltage and milliamps. Hopefully this will help you guys out and give you a little bit of thought to process there when you go out into your next little race. So we will see how things go. I appreciate all you guys here on the channel. Love each and every one of you. Peace.